Good Friday morning. My name is Jerry Miller, and thank you kindly for joining us on Real Talk with Keith Smith. It's great to be with you on a glorious and gorgeous Friday in downtown Charlottesville, our studio on Market Street, right smack dab in the middle of everything. This has been a busy week for the network. We had Sean Moore, greatest quarterback in UVA history, on the show on Tuesday. We spotlighted the Pro Renata ownership team as they expand into the Shenandoah Valley, into downtown Stanton with some real estate development. Boatload of news on our 12:30 show. And today on Friday, we're going to finish the week with a bang. We have data galore, courtesy of Keith Smith, one of the partners, one of the principals at Yes Realty Partners. Find them online at yesrealtypartners.com. Join us in the discussion and help shape the show and the conversation. Judah Wickower behind the camera. Judah, if you can go to the studio camera and welcome the star of our show, Keith Smith. He's on Fridays now. Good Friday morning, my friend. How are you doing?
You know, if I was doing any better, I'd be Jerry Miller. That's how awesome my life is. Huh?
It's been a good week.
It's
been a good week.
Been a good week. Business is humming, which is great to hear out there. But yeah, I kind of wanted to kind of kick it off a little bit, and I've been talking about this for a while. That the buyer pendulum is starting to move. Now, this is centimeters, folks. This is not, all of a sudden going to peg over to that. This is what we would call a traditional buyer's market, but it's starting to move a little bit. And this isn't in my opinion, this is the opinion of a talk show host, right?
You've been in real estate since 1987.
I've been in real estate.
It's been a long time for you.
A long time.
Yeah.
And I think the definition of 2 years from now, the definition of what we would call a buyer's market is going to change. But right now, it's starting in certain price points, in certain locations, it's starting to at least be somewhat balanced a little bit as far as, quote, buyer and seller's market. And I think there's a bunch of reasons to it. But let's just pick apart Lake Monticello for a second.
Absolutely.
Right? Right now, I pulled it up just before we went live. There's 18 homes on the market. Believe it or not, the average list price is $433,800. The median is $422. The low is $269, and the high is $700. But what's catching my attention is the days on market.
Okay.
So we are now looking at 45 on the average and 35 on the median. So these are days that these listings are active, right? So we're in the 30s to the 40s range. And we've had this conversation a long time ago, right? What defines when the market moves? And some people say move clearly from a seller's to a buyer's or vice versa. It's a 60 to 90 day rule. That's gone. I think it's closer to the 30 to 40 day. That's why I think you're seeing at the moment, I have trusted real estate agents calling me and asking me what's going on in Lake Monticello. How come we're sitting in 30 to 40 days? It's because it's starting to make a slight move over to the buyer side. So that's what we're seeing. We've got a couple of data charts to kind of prove some of my position, but what I really wanted to do is reach out to my colleagues out there to jump in and say, are they seeing the same thing in their specific micro market?
Nate Kibler watching the program, the star of the White Mountain Ministry show. He had some good commentary for us, Judah. I hope you saw this morning on his page. Johnny Ornelas of El Mariachi in Mexicali in Guadalajara watching the program.
Yeah, he's on vacation watching.
We love you. Andre Xavier, the real estate and travel entrepreneur. Hello, Stu Rifkin. Doing some business with Stu as we speak right now. Always good to see you, Stu. I'll offer this commentary. Is Lake Monticello the best barometer for days on market of any neighborhood in the car footprint right now? Because if you look at some of the other jurisdictions and the other neighborhoods in the car footprint, specifically in certain pockets of the city of Charlottesville and Albemarle County, inventory is trading in hours or a few days.
So micro markets matter. That's why this overall pendulum is just moving a little bit, right? And you're 100% right. I just arbitrarily picked Lake Monticello. I like doing it because it's 4,300 homes. They're generally around the same price point,
Sure.
right? They're all single-family detached. You have little new construction in there impacting the market. So, I tend to look at that as it. And in the reality of it, that's kind of where the first-time home buyer price point is, believe it or not, is in that Lake Monticello environment. But you're 100% right. If you start looking into different jurisdictions, it's quite the opposite. By the way, there was a $1 million listing at Lake Monticello on the waterfront that sold in hours, right?
Right.
So,
could it be that what's happened at Lake Monticello is traditionally a first-time home buyer's neighborhood has maybe become a step-up neighborhood? And the step-up neighborhood is that buyer may be looking at other step-up neighborhoods in the car footprint. You said the median home price is what?
This is list price.
The list price?
$422.
$422. Interest rate still above 6.
Yeah,
What's that? A monthly mortgage payment of what?
Well, we only have two homes that are currently active under $300,000, and so I won't pick apart one in particular because I don't want to call
422. You said?
There's only two below $300,000 available at Lake Monticello.
Okay.
Everything above that has a 3 in front of it.
Okay.
Right. But one.
So someone's looking at probably a mortgage payment around $2,800.
But here's why.
It's tough for a first-time home buyer.
100%. And I even believe as we get closer to a norm of 5 to 6% range of mortgages, it's still the buyer right now has to have, and Judah has this, and he can buzz them through them as we're talking about it. It has to hit these 6 rights. So if it hits these 6 rights, right, the right location, price, features, and condition, and focus on the first 4, it's this many. The first 4, nice job, Smith. The first 4, it'll sell in minutes. It'll sell shortly. If it doesn't, and right now, there's one home there that is the lowest price home available at Lake Monticello that's been on the market for 45 days. So clearly, the location's the right location. So either we got a problem.
We have a condition problem.
Correct, which reflects into price. We either have condition, or it doesn't have the right features, or there's something else buried into it. And what I mean by this pendulum starting to swing is the buyers are not in absolute control. Sellers. We're not in this unicorn years of 20 to 21, right? Where if it had 4 walls on the roof, it's sold. Right now, these first 4 matter, right? The location matters, the price matters more than ever, the condition and the features of it matter on it. And if it hits those things, it'll sell in 1 day or 2 days or 3 days.
Travis Hackworth saying hello from Danville.
Hey, Travis, and he asked the great thing about, is, the increase in taxes playing into this, and that is true. There's things in play here that we really haven't seen before, right? We're not going to increase our inventory, Jerry. Inventory is going to stay flat for the next 5 to 10 years. When I mean flat, and if you don't mind putting slide number 9 up.
Andre Xavier, we'll get to your question. Bill McChesney, hello. Logan Wells Claylo, hello. Multiple brokers watching the program.
Slide 9. So I have access to Homes, Realtor, and Atom, and I use that for this particular information. But what you're looking at is the number of homes actively for sale per month, right? And this excludes pendings. And this goes from January of 17 all the way to July of 24. But if you take a look at the right side of that slide, active homes coming on the market have been floating somewhere between mid-3s and the 5s. So somewhere between 300 to 500 units per month. It kind of goes up and down. But if you take a look on the left side, back in 2017, we were in the thousands, 2,000, 1,700, 1,500 homes that would come on in the car footprint in a month. So we've been pretty flat on inventory from 21 until now. That's going to continue, guys. But it's weird. It's going to continue that way. But these sellers right now, because money costs so much right now, more than what it did. If you don't hit those first 4 things, then your home if you're a seller, is particularly maybe in a buyer's environment than you are in a seller's environment. So I know I've already caught a bunch of stuff since I posted this morning from fellow real estate agents. Are you saying we're in a buyer's market? No, not even close.
I'm seeing the pushback.
Yeah, we're not even close. But if you don't think that that pendulum is slowly moving, and it's going to take years to get there.
I think the pendulum is moving on certain areas.
Absolutely. But it's affecting the overall market. You're 100% right. Some areas, like Lake Monticello, that pendulum is moving way past a couple of centimeters into it. Certain areas, it's pegged all the way beyond the seller side, right? That in certain areas are. Micro markets matter. This is when the pros show up, and folks need to understand looking at it in a specific breakdown. We can go into individual jurisdictions if you want, but I just wanted to kind of get that out there. They could be pushing back, but if you're not thinking in your head that certain markets are starting to move, and oh, by the way, prices aren't going to drop, right? Prices aren't going to drop. Inventory isn't going to creep up. When we start taking a look at the volume of sales at the end of this year, we're still going to be looking at 15 or 16 volume on it, which if you were to go by 15 and 16, we should be seeing, a couple of, 1,500 to 2,000 new houses a month coming up. We're not going to see that. So I'm just letting folks out there. I think prices are stabilizing in certain markets. It's turning to be into a little bit of a buyer's market in certain markets. Some of them are heavy on the buy side. Some of them are not. But this is when you want to keep a close eye on the market. But this wholesale, if it's got 4 walls and a roof, and sellers have not creeped into this yet, right? The sellers that are in these, that's why you're seeing price reductions in some of these micro markets, have not quite got the memo that you just can't throw a number at a house anymore. It has to be priced right.
Andre Xavier watching the program. How about the price cuts? We're talking about that. I noticed an increase in duplexes coming into the market. What are your thoughts on these 2 points, price cuts and duplexes?
So I don't look at price cuts as price cuts. What I'm looking at is a reality setting in on what the actual market is growing. So what's happening with sellers in certain locations is they think their home's worth more than what the current market could stand because they're looking at, I'll let you put on slide number 1 if you don't.
Jason Howard, I'll get to your question here. Neil Williamson, your thoughts. Ray Cadell, your thoughts.
If you look at slide number 1, we had this big ramp up between 20 and 21. So we have 24 months of a ramp up in inventory and pricing on it. That slope of rate of moving from 275 to 462 in the car footprint is going to continue to climb up. And we've been proving this month over month, right? And we can look at specific situations. What's happening is Jerry calls me up and says, my house is worth X, and I'm saying, no, your house is worth Y in today's market. It's still above A, but it's not Z in it. Look at that.
I think what he's saying is, my house is worth X. I'm going to compare it to 2022 peak COVID. It's not worth 2022 in peak COVID because the interest rates were lower.
No, it's worth more than that. The percentage increase is not there anymore. That's it. If you bought a house in 2021 and you sell it in 2024 in the right location, you're making money. It's just not double-digit appreciation. That's the difference.
Okay.
It's single digit, and you're going to start seeing on a car footprint this 3 to 6%. Certain areas, you're going to see double digit. Certain areas a little skinnier on that year over year. But
I think you're going to see double digit year over year in Albemarle County, slam dunk, no problem. Albemarle County, no problem.
No arguments there.
From today to next year,
no arguments there.
10% plus. City of Charlottesville, 10% plus year over year.
No arguments there.
No problem. The other jurisdictions, I don't think you're going to see double digits.
No. And if we want to take a look at
And in fact, we have the data to back this up.
we have the data to back that up.
We'll get to the questions that are coming in fast and furious right now on Real Talk with Keith Smith.
Well, you pick a jurisdiction.
I mean, Albemarle County is, I think, the best barometer because it's got the most inventory.
Correct. So if you go to slide number, I think I pulled a number off of that. That's going to be slide number 2, I believe. I apologize, Judah. I took the slide number off of that. So so we've raised from 2016 to now from 335 to 534, right? So it's a substantial increase. But take a look at the decrease in sales.
Yeah.
Right. So we plummeted from 909 from 1335. So, but if you take the only jurisdiction that has been a little flat in value is my county, Fluvanna County, right? So that would be slide number 4. So Fluvanna in value has just had an incremental increase year over year from 350 to 356, first 7 months, right? But every other jurisdiction is climbing, some much higher than others. But take a look at Fluvanna County's drop. That's the most dramatic. It dropped from 336 in number of units sold to 199. That is a huge plummet from the high of 2021. And we're down over 16, substantially. And I think you're going to start seeing that leveling off and this kind of downward trend on volume of transactions, but you're still going to see an increase. Some of them are going to be a little higher, some of them are going to be a little lower.
Jason Howard watching the program. It's the start of the school year. It's happening now. A factor in days on market. Is that a factor on days on market? As a parent, I would not want to move just as the school is starting.
So there's a factor in here, and if we can, and I'm sorry, Jude, I'm doing this to you, but it must be the coffee kicking in. If we can go to slide number 9, which is the number of activity homes.
Renee Warner, hello.
On it. Back in 17 and 16 and 18, when you would read the National Association of Realtors report about the statistics on how long people stay in their homes, it was 5 to 6 years. We are now, and I bet you when they come out, going to be over 10 years. So people are staying in their homes much longer. Inventory is not coming on the market. There aren't new construction enough to get built coming into it. Prices are slightly increasing, some areas a little bit more. So all those indications say that this is clearly a seller's market. But certain micro markets, that is not the case right now. You're starting to see the buyer having a little bit of control in what they want. They want to move into something, it's been my experience, at certain price points, they want to move into something that they don't have to renovate or fix up. And that's the condition and features thing that is super important right now.
The areas that drove the seller price insanity are now the ones showing the bigger price reductions. That's from Kevin Yancey. That's not true. I don't think that is necessarily true, Kev.
Well,
he's saying the areas that drove the seller price insanity are now the ones showing the bigger price reductions. I do not think that's factual.
Well, what we can do is we could take a look at that real quick.
The areas that drove the price insanity were Charlottesville and Albemarle County leading the charge. Charlottesville and Albemarle County do have some price reduction, but year over year, values have upticked the most in Charlottesville and Albemarle County of any jurisdiction in Central Virginia, percentage-wise.
Yeah, so I'm looking at, just so that, every 7 days, I look at this market thing. So at the moment, we have 63 homes that have price adjustments. You're going to see these price adjustments come on, but they're all over the map. It's Albemarle County. Albemarle County is the first 26. Charlottesville is 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 of that 63. Fluvanna, Albemarle is more.
Because it has the most inventory
volume
on the market for sale.
Well, it has 900 transactions.
Yeah, right.
Versus,
all the other ones are pale in comparison to this.
Yeah, versus Fluvanna County.
Albemarle County basically has 48% of the transactions right now in the car footprint.
Yeah, so Fluvanna is 199. This is the first 7 months. Greene, by the way, Greene County, that's slide number 5, Judah. Greene County is the only local jurisdiction that had an increase in volume of sales. They went from 114 to 126. Everything else every other jurisdiction, that orange line I have in there is going down, not going up. It's incremental. It's not a huge number, but you also see the price point jump from 386 to 400. And to Kevin's point, I don't have numbers for the other side of the hill to look at that. But the lion's share at the moment is in Albemarle County. And again, it's where I beg to differ in this thing. You may see list prices being adjusted. You're not seeing the median sales price go down.
Right.
That's the thing, right? So what's happening is the sellers having a wake-up call, right, that are, I mean, I'm just looking at the first one, the adjustment that popped up. It's in Fulvana County. It was on the market for 56 days, right? They had a wake-up call. We overpriced it. We overpriced it because it didn't have the right features. It didn't have the right thing. If you haven't sold, have your house under contract, let's say, oh, hold on a second. I did a DOM thing.
Show's moving. People are into it.
I'm trying to think. Here's a scary thought.
Let us know your thoughts, viewers and listeners. We'll
Smith is
relay them live
thinking.
on air.
Smith is thinking. Hold on a second. I'll get you the slide number here, because I went all the way back to 2007. Here we go. This would be slide number 8. So
Slide 8 on screen, J-Dubs?
So
Gosh,
slide
J-Dubs, you're so
8,
good.
folks, talk about what the average and the median, isn't that like some
Focus.
Smith?
You're making a compelling point here.
Compelling. So because I lost it, I'm trying to get it back. If you take a look at the average and the median, right? So, and you take a look at, and this goes back to all the way back to 2007. And why this is important, what was happening in 2007?
I mean, we were going into a depression.
It was a time of great unpleasantness.
Yeah, right at the beginning.
And you see how it jumped from 07 to 08, from 92 to 123. I'm focusing on average right now. And then you started seeing it slightly drop a little bit, kind of picked back up again. But then you started hitting 2014 when the market started shifting to that seller component, right?
It is absolutely insane that I'll give you I think it's nuts that we're saying the pendulum is swinging to a buyer's market here.
The point is, the 123, the 90, all that stuff, that's not the new days on market. I'm telling you right now, Lake Monticello, if you've got a seller and it's been on the market for more than 30 days, that seller's now getting nervous. What's going on? What happened? How come we haven't sold it? And you got to have your honest should have had it in the first place, but you're going to have your honest conversation and going, okay, we're either overpriced, right? The market is telling us something. The buyer is telling, and that's where I mean the buyers have some control. They're telling the sellers in that particular micro market, right? If I pull up the thing for Charlottesville, you're going to see something very different, right? Pull up certain sections of Albemarle County, you're going to see something very different. But in the very specific locations, and it's from block to block and street to street, by the way, now. It's getting down to that point that in Lake Monticello, just to pick that, waterfront's doing differently than golf course. You know, if you're not on golf course and waterfront, you're performing a little bit different. If you're on Jefferson Drive and, you know, you probably need to be a little bit more creative about your pricing. But the sale price is going up. Now, what we don't know, which I haven't done the homework, so the one that's been on the market for 56 days, when did they buy it? Did they buy it in 21? Matter of fact, I actually can do that.
The show's on fire right now. Viewers and listeners, we appreciate you joining us with the discussion, sharing the show, liking the show. Keith Smith offering some compelling data to drive the real estate news cycle here in a region that's 300,000 people strong. I think.
Yeah, okay, here you go. This is exactly the reason why that house is on the market for 50-something days. They bought it in 03, in March of, actually April of 21.
Okay.
So they bought it at the height of the market. It's increased. The value of property is increased, but it hasn't increased as much as they want for the house.
April of 2021.
Yeah. And now they've got it on the market. I don't want to talk about the property or the agent because I don't want to
Yeah.
I don't want to cross any lines.
What do they buy for? What do they buy for?
$265.
What's the list?
344.9.
344.9.
Went from 359 to 344.9. And I'm probably giving too much information away.
I mean, it's public record.
Yeah.
It's public record.
But now, you know.
Walk with what? 92%? 93%?
Yeah.
They're trying to get as much meat on the bone as possible?
Yeah, and they're not. That house is not going to sell.
It's not how it works.
It's not. That's the point. That's
Yeah.
not how this works.
Yeah.
Right. And
you don't get to determine the margin that you make. The market determines the margin you make.
That. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
you can time the market. You can get a feel for timing.
Well, watch number 5 in our slides. Timing, right? Timing is everything, right? Timing the market. So I don't know the specifics in the background, but I can tell you that's going to be a hard sell at that point. I don't think they're far off, by the way, right? And that's the difference. You know, a few percentage points in list price makes the huge difference. And, you know, if you don't go into the market, price matters more than anything. If you don't go into the right price point and you're sitting on the market for 56 days.
Yeah, people start asking questions.
That doesn't help anybody.
Yeah. People start wondering what's going on.
Doesn't help the market, doesn't help your relationship with your client.
Questions coming in, fast and furious.
Yeah.
This question, what does Keith think will drive this market forward over the next year?
I think you're looking at it. I think the market is these 6 things matter, right? If you're selling or not. It's location, price, features, condition, the timing, and who's part of your transaction and who's on the other side. By the way, for the last 2 weeks is more important than ever, right? Matters. So that's what's going to drive the market. It's going to be, and I've been saying this all along, this is when the pros show up. You've got to know your numbers. You've got to know your market. You've got to be comfortable enough to sit across the table from a buyer or a seller and say, this is where the market is right now. 2 months from now, it might be different. After the election, it might be different. I might be wrong.
I mean, I'm surprised you didn't lead with interest rates.
I don't think the interest rate's going to impact it one way or the other.
I think the interest rate's going to impact the market.
Nope, I don't think so at all.
I think Q1, Q2 of next year, you're going to be looking at a rate that's middle 5s. We're already seeing a September rate cut being talked about being.
I think that's pretty. I think the mortgage
potentially it's baked in already.
Yeah.
Potentially it's baked in. Q1, Q2 though, we could see mid 5s on the rates. If we see mid 5s on the rates, you're going to get inventory moving.
So I had a chart. I just didn't have time to do it. It takes a look at the sales end of it and the actives coming on. We're about ready to go into the season, the active season. Historically, September, October, some parts of November. So you're going to start seeing, when we do the show at the end of September, you're going to see a huge, percentage-wise, versus last month, an increase in inventory. But it's going to be so anemic. If you take a look at what we've been floating around since, hold on a second here, I got to make sure I know what the heck I'm talking about. Since October, January of 21, we've been floating up and down somewhere between the high 3s and low 600 new listings per month, right? It's going to stay that way. It might go up a little over 600. It might climb up to 700, but we are not going back for the next 5 to 10 years unless something catastrophic happens to the 19, back in April of 17, we had 1,915 new homes come on the market in 30 days. I'm not smart enough to figure out what the percentage on that is on top of my head, but that's huge jump. We're not going to see that, folks. This inventory is going to float up and down, up and down. Interest rate's going to help it climb a little bit, but people, historically, they're not moving. The lock-in, they're not going to move. If they don't have to move, they won't move. So inventory isn't going to change, but the buyer in certain markets, I'm only saying this because I'm hearing it, at this price point, are like, no, if this house isn't checks all the boxes, we're moving on. I'm not buying a house for $350,000 to $400,000 and have to paint it and have to put in new appliances and have to put in a new HVAC system and have to put a new roof on it. Those days are gone. So that's what I'm trying to make here, that if your seller thinks that I don't have to bring the home up to current condition.
Yeah, they're not in reality.
They're not in reality. And then the buyer's going to be in control of that house.
Depends on the jurisdiction. Depends on
Correct.
the location.
Correct. I want to be super clear.
Depends on the location.
Micro markets matter.
Yeah.
And within micro markets, one street to the other matters. And again, that's when the pro shows up to be able to discern the difference.
Comments coming in. Viewers and listeners, let us know your thoughts. Do you want to touch on the changes in the MLS, or have we covered that already?
I think we beat that dog to death.
This question's come in. Is there a disadvantage to being a member of National Association of Realtors right now?
Time's going to tell on that one. I don't know if it's a disadvantage or an advantage. Look, at the end of the day, in the state of Virginia, this is what happens. The state of Virginia, we, meaning my side of the house, has been required to do a buyer-broker agreement since 2012. And if you go ahead and take the time and research it, and Neil can pull it, it's actually pretty specific on when that's supposed to be done, and it has to be in writing, right? So that hasn't changed. Up until now, has everybody done that? Probably not. So that's really, and it's not in the MLS. That's the two big changes. Actually, there's a third one, but I don't want to get into that. That's too
technical.
Too technical to get into it. But the two big things, that's what happened. So right now, there's a bunch of agents freaking out, which I don't understand why, but that's okay. If you've got to be able to explain your value proposition to your client, and that's it. And if I roll in, I pick up the phone and I call up Jerry and I say, Jerry, how much is your seller offering? And if Jerry says, I'm either not going to tell you, it's none of your business, then I'm going to assume it's zero, and then I'm going to tell my buyer, okay, do you remember this buyer-broker agreement I said? Let's talk about this a little bit. If I can't negotiate my fee that we've agreed to into the contract, are you still good with paying this at closing? Yes. Okay, great. Let's go. Let's take a look at it. And I don't understand why people are panicking, but what do I know?
This question from Mr. Howard. What are the buyer demographics looking like? Retiring boomers, young families, more telecommuters relocating with loads of cash from more expensive localities? All the above, I'd say.
But that's a really great question. I do not think the buyer profile on whole hasn't changed in many years.
No way.
It's the retiree coming in with cash and the millennial. The millennial's coming into the market, right?
I think you're seeing more out of market wealthy coming in than ever before.
That's what I'm calling retirees, right? So
I don't know if that's a retiree
empty nest, a huge amount of people still coming in here. But I'm going to take a look at, so there's 70 units that closed.
The media outlets studied web traffic data on the Realtor.com app and the Realtor.com website.
Yeah.
And the top 10 metro areas that we're looking at active listings in the car footprint. 10 metro areas. And of those 10, Philadelphia, Chicago, Atlanta,
these are people coming from
Manhattan, and Washington, D.C. Those 5 metro areas were in the top 10 of people actively looking at listings in Charlottesville right now.
And you've got some on the lower end, like what I call the halfbacks. The people that went to Florida now are coming halfway back. We're seeing a lot of that. But to your point, so that's what I'm calling the retirees, or people relocating. You got people relocating with pockets. So I just looked at it, just so that you know.
Yeah. I don't think those are retirees. I think those are guys that are now able to work remotely.
There's some percentage
that are keeping their jobs in the major metro areas and choosing this area to work.
And some of these, if you read other statistics, some of these companies are now requiring people to come back. But just to put it out there, and I can pull up we had 70 closings in the last 7 days. 33 of them were cash. So whatever that math percentage turns out to be.
It's half.
Well, it's more than half.
70 closings, 33, half would be
Yeah,
35.
It's less than half.
Yeah.
Just a
Yeah.
half. So.
Right
So
under
we're at
half.
50%.
Yeah.
What have we been watching for a while? It's usually been about 30%, 33%.
Yeah.
We're now back at 50%. And those buyers are exactly what you're talking about. They've sold someplace else, got a pocket. I just did my final walkthrough on one this morning, literally coming from New Jersey on a new construction build in Crozet. I had my final walkthrough at 8:30 this morning. That's why I was here early.
Nice.
At 8:30.
Nicely done.
That doesn't happen very often, by the way.
How'd you find that buyer?
Our business is 100% referral. We've helped her children relocate down here.
Nice.
It's our 6th transaction with the same family, and
Very nice.
they moved from. Unfortunately, there was a family loss, and one of them wanted to be closer to grandkids. Sold their house up in Connecticut. New Jersey. I got another one from Connecticut. We're closing this week, today actually. And
You hear this, guys? This is just the Northeast flooding Charlottesville.
But
And where are these people that you're helping? Where are they choosing to move to?
both of them in Crozet.
Albemarle County
I got
folks.
a bunch of them moving to Lake Monticello. Got about 4 or 5 coming into Lake Monticello, because that's a great retirement setup, right? The prices are, so I can sell a house for $600,000, $700,000, $800,000, buy something for $400,000 plus or minus out there, and end up with a little bit of cash in my pocket. And then I can play golf. I can hang out at the lake. I can go see Keith on his spandex riding around.
That's
on the
a
lake.
reason to go to Lake Monticello.
No,
This
no.
comes in via direct message. Jerry, please keep this anonymous. I was having lunch with the head of commercial banking for Wells Fargo for Virginia earlier this week, and he shared their internal economists just updated their rate predictions to Fed funds cut 2 points over the next 12 to 15 months, with 50 bips in September and another large one in December. I'm going to continue with the statement, the prediction I've made for most of 2024. Once we get beyond this election, we are going to see an interest rate environment that's firmly in the 5s. As an interest rate environment gets firmly in the 5s, there's going to be more buyers entering the market because they have more purchasing power. With more purchasing power, you're going to see values go up in the city in Charlottesville because there's going to be more demand, even more demand that there is now. And I do not think an interest rate that's firmly in the 5s is enough to incentivize those that locked in rates in the mid-2s or in the low 3s. I think it's enough to incentivize some, but it's not going to be enough to incentivize the same amount of sellers as buyers that enter this market.
But there's one little statistic that you're not calculating into that, and I don't disagree with anything you just said, but there's a factor in there that 80, depending on who you talk to, 80 to 88% of the people that are selling right now is because they have to, right? There's life changes that they're going to go ahead and do this. But I'm looking at a bank rate right now. If you go ahead and do a very quick search on that, typically after each election cycle, interest rates drop down. It's going back to 1981 or 80. When was Reagan elected? 80, right? In 1980. So historically, you'll see rates drop. I think you're going to see rates drop a little bit more. I just don't. I may be wrong. We are not. If people are thinking inventory is going to drop anything above 600 to 700 units per month coming on the market back to the 2000. Even if you take 2020. Right? If you go back to chart number 9.
Chart number 9, J-Dubs.
If you look at,
over there, J-Dubs. Doing like
that's
3 things at once over there, aren't you, J-Dubs?
I'm sorry about that, bro.
No. It's what the man's paid to do over there, right, Judah?
Oh, I love him. I don't like pushing him around. If you look back at April of 20, we were at 1,232 new listings, number of homes actively for sale per month. So that was in 20. And then July of 20, we were at 1,295, and then we start dropping all the way down to April of 21, where we start hitting in the 5s. But if you take a look at that chart from January, April of 21 to now, we're floating right at that 6, bouncing up and down to that 600 line over there. We're a little bit over right now. We might climb up to somewhere around 700-ish, plus or minus. But we're not going to be in April where we're at 1,200. We're not going to be double of what we're seeing. It's just not going to happen. And the reason that's not going to happen is we're just not building enough to make that difference.
Or nor do we have the appetite from taxpayers for that inventory.
100%.
For that new inventory.
Well, eventually it's going to impact them because, to Travis's comment, when taxes start going through the roof.
Well, it's going to impact them in certain jurisdictions that don't have the business revenue, the retail revenue, the meals tax revenue that other jurisdictions do.
Most of them,
Charlottesville and Albemarle County, I think, are in the catbird seat here because they have many sources of income.
they do, but they're not at the panacea number yet, right? The percentage rate, they're below where they should be, right?
Where Fluvanna, on the other hand,
Huh?
96% of the jurisdiction's revenue is tied to
We're
real
putting
estate
Fluvanna
taxes.
in that same discussion.
Is it 96, 97%?
It's so high, it's not worth talking about.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
That's who it's going to impact.
I've seen it already.
Yeah.
I've seen it in my family.
Right. Louisa County's doing a hell of a job of bringing business in.
Louise is doing good, right? I know Neil.
Hell of a deal with Amazon.
Sure. Neil would know these numbers way better than I do, but, I don't know what their percentage difference is. It's probably substantially better than Fluvanna County. I just know that well because it's my home county.
At 96, 97%.
Yeah. So, yeah, we'll see. So, back to the question, where do I see the market going? Overall, inventory is going to pick up a little bit, minimal percentage-wise. We're not going to see this huge doubling of inventory or anything like that, and that's going to be on that roller coaster of bumping up and down somewhere around 600, right? 6 to 8, somewhere below the 600 line and above the 600 line, and it'll start creeping up a little bit, but that's a 5 to 10 year window out there. So inventory is just going to stay there. Prices are going to continue to go up. Micro markets are going to be double digits, but if we look at it as a holistic county, a holistic car footprint, we're probably going to be looking at the norm of 3-6%, plus or minus, climbing up over there. Days on markets are going to start getting into somewhat of a 2 to 4 week norm is where we're going to be floating. I think that's where we're going to be looking at where the new days on market number is. When we start getting above 30 days or so, then that particular individual house is now just switched from a seller to a buyer, right? A buyer, let's call it a buyer market per house. And back to my buyer market comment, it's going to be down to the individual property. A wholesale like we saw back in the time of great unpleasantness where it was a buyer's market. That's not going to happen at least as long as I'm in this business, which has got a shelf life to it on that end.
Neil Williamson answering our question, President of the Free Enterprise Forum. Support the Free Enterprise Forum.
Please.
Donate to the Free Enterprise
Please.
Forum. When you see the President of the Free Enterprise Forum, Neil Williamson,
Thank
whether
you.
at Green Hills shooting 67s or 68s and going 300 yards off the tee, or if you see him at a mixer, at a chamber function, around the car office, go up to Neil Williamson and give him a chest bump, a fist bump, or just a handshake, because the man is doing amazing work. He shares the data.
Yeah, thank you.
City of Charlottesville has the highest percentage of business generated tax revenue.
At what?
35.7%. City of Charlottesville. Albemarle County, 27% of tax revenue generated by business. Nelson County, 20%. Nelson County, you know what that revenue is tied to, right?
Internet.
150 Fun.
Yeah.
Booze.
I just needed to.
Fluvanna County had the lowest business tax impact. 7.3%.
Got to include that 3%. We missed.
7.3%.
You got Louisa in there? I didn't see Louisa.
Let's see here.
I didn't hear Louisa.
Louisa, I got to look at a bar graph here. I'd say is about 14%.
Yeah. So, and Neil, correct me if I'm wrong. Every meeting I've ever been in, the panacea, the perfect ratio is about a third, right? You want about a third from that. So, the city of Charlottesville, assuming 33% is the number.
35.7.
Yeah.
Above that.
So they're above it. Albemarle County is close.
27, flirting
Close.
with it, dancing with
Everything else is
it, way below.
way below.
How about the statistic from the I Love CVille show the other day? 12,024 UVA employees on payroll, 12,024 being paid yearly $1,125 million.
What does that average out at?
Judah, you have the average. Do you remember off the top of your head?
I'm just curious.
It's like 106 or something?
Yeah.
You got that? Can you check it out from the...
And having the microphone would be great. Oh, I'm wearing him out.
Judah Wickow. Man of many talents over there.
Let's see.
He's got that right in his inbox right there, in his inbox.
I'm sure he does.
How about this hefty...
It was the average. Hold on. I think maybe I have.
How about the hefty pay raise for Chief Executive Officer of UVA Health, Craig Kent, 2023 versus 2024, got a pay bump of $500,000.
Good for him.
Now at 1.6.
Good for him.
Trivia question for you.
Good for him. I'm
Who is
not in
the-
a trivia mood today.
Who is the top earner at the University of Virginia?
Are we counting coaches in that?
We count coaches.
Isn't it one of the coaches?
Tony Bennett,
Yeah.
number 1, 4.6 million. Tony Elliott, number 2, just over 4 million.
Yeah.
Number 3, Craig Kent, 1.6 million. 4, Jim Ryan. Terry Sullivan's still on the payroll. She's over 400K as a sociology professor. The former
President.
president, 488,000, which was a 21% decrease on 2023 numbers. The average sociology professor makes $82,000. So she is 8x the average sociology professor. Judah, what was that number?
The average employee salary in 2024 was $101,656.
And what's the HUD household family income, Judah? You got this off the top of your head? I know it.
And I know it.
124.
124 too. Judah Wickower, well done.
Look at you.
124 too. So the average UVA employee makes $101,000. The HUD average family household income is $124,200 too.
Is any,
So if that family has a second earner, they're significantly above the average family household income according to HUD,
No doubt.
which is an indication of what as it applies to the University of Virginia?
I don't know.
That they're the needle mover for the region,
well,
and what clearly has made this
yeah.
region extremely expensive and also very healthy with this economy.
Let me see. Duh.
Yeah.
Right? You know, we've
People throw shade at UVA, but without it,
I would not be sitting here talking
that's
to you.
what I'm saying.
We would not be doing the
Right.
show. Yeah, totally, 100%.
Yeah.
We
It's easy to throw shade at UVA where it's like they're buying property and taking it off the tax roll and not paying their taxes. Michael paying payment in lieu of taxes. But what UVA's counterpoint is 12,024 employees at an average $101,000,
so
which
we
is a hell of a counterpoint.
So we are a company town. Period. We're a company town in the classic sense of it, right? We're a company town. The company just happens to be UVA.
100% a company.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a company town.
Yeah.
And everything that what a company town brings to the table, positive or negative, you go ahead and do that. You know, I'm not going to throw shade at UVA too much because, you know, it's not moving as fast as I'd like. And
HUD is median CWAGs, Carly Wagner, 100%.
And I do want to give a shout out to Neil. I wasn't able to attend it because I actually had to work. Go look at that. But he just did a roundtable discussion with UVA on the affordable housing thing, and I got to watch the tape after, and it was hands down well done. If you have an opportunity to tie into the Free Enterprise Forum's website, take an opportunity and read it. Really great information there. But you know, they may not be stepping up to the plate the way certain individuals may want them to, but they are. I mean, offering land to do something in this market is huge. Do I think they can do more? You bet your butt. I think they could do more. But that comes from a guy who chairs an affordable housing nonprofit that's begging for money all the time, right? So I think they're doing good. I do want to, since Neil was up.
Neil has this point, and then Rob will get to your point. Neil says you also need to consider rental real estate. Does rental real estate tax revenue fall into business tax revenue or residential tax revenue. It depends on the locality.
So
And he says, for what it's worth, the foundation pays full boat property taxes. 100%.
That's exactly right.
100%.
That's exactly right.
UVA, the school nonprofit foundation, does pay full boat
Absolutely.
taxes.
And has to go through the whole rezoning process.
Yeah.
And has to function just like anybody else. UVA gets a pass on that.
Yeah.
On anything that they're doing on it,
And that's why you see UVA pushing back on Mike Payne.
In their defense, UVA, just to take that end of it, these soon to be 3 projects going through the works. Right now it's 2.
Fontaine
Correct.
and North Point?
No, West, it's right across from the draft. West, forgot the actual address, but they're doing 2 projects running through the pipeline right now. One over on Fontaine and one on West Main Street. I forgot the actual.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Actual
The Draftsman Hotel.
Right from the
Yeah.
Draftsman, yeah. But they moved those properties from UVA ownership into the foundation ownership. So guess what?
They're paying taxes on it.
They're paying taxes on it. And guess what?
Going through the government policy, red tape, approval process.
And guess what? To Neil's point, when all these rental units, because that's what's going to be built on these 2 things, the value of that land explodes. Therefore, they're paying more taxes.
Carly makes a good point. The number you gave with the average UVA salary, was that average or median?
So thank you, Carly. Median is the number you want to look at.
Yeah, so HUD is median, she's right. Was your number with
right.
UVA average?
Average.
All right,
Yeah.
so she says the median income for UVA would be much lower than that.
Correct.
So we should get the median number
Yeah.
if you can find it for the UVA salary.
And that's
we can
a hard
compare.
thing to do on the fly. That takes a little bit.
Well, I
of
think he's got the source for that. Thank you, Carly. C-Wags, make the program better over there.
Thank you. I've got Carly. Thank you for doing that. I had a note here to bring that up.
So we should see the median.
You got to
for
compare
UVA.
apples to apples. We're comparing median at 124 to that, and she's right. I mean, logically, it's going to be less than the average. It's just,
well, because you got Craig Kent making $1.6 million, pulling the number up.
I think it's
Jim
gonna
Ryan.
It'll be below 6 figures for sure. Exactly how low it's different thing. But I do want to get on a soapbox for a moment.
I would bet you. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. Finish your bet.
I
I
mean-
wrote a note down. I'll remember it.
I think that it's going to be lower than the 100 and change.
Hey.
Yes. Yeah.
I love you, man.
Yeah. Same. Love you too.
Here's my beef with UVA
Okay. Go ahead.
and what they're doing.
Okay.
And they know this because I've told them that. And I appreciate what they're doing. I also wear an ownership hat. But at the moment, everything they're building is rental. So there's nothing in the pipeline on the ownership thing. And when I push them for because I'm in the room at the Regional Housing Partnership with certain individuals from UVA, so tell me how much in the North Point is going to be ownership or rental. I don't get an answer. They don't know that.
But is it? I'll push back on that. Is it UVA's responsibility to create housing ownership funnels for community members?
So I'm on a soapbox, and I'm also taking it from a point that I believe in ownership.
And
right?
he's also a real estate agent
also
that
a
sells
real
homes,
estate
okay, and makes his living by selling homes.
I actually got to work. Yeah. So it's a bit self-serving. Putting that aside,
I've never met a real estate agent that's not in favor of housing development.
of course.
I've never met a mortgage broker that's not in favor of housing development.
I can trump that.
Okay.
I had
Go
a subdivision that I was trying to get approved, and I'll leave names out of it in Fulvena County, that real estate agents owned and was selling and fought me on it. And by the way, was going to make multi-millions of dollars after we closed and we gave it to them, and they fought them on it. So I've had real estate agents, if it's next to them, fight it.
Okay.
Just so that,
For the most part, a real estate agent's going to be pro-housing.
Of course, that's the business we're in. Yeah. We believe in home ownership. We believe in, I honestly believe, as I testified to my why I do what I do on it. But, building, just the reason I put so much time in the land trust, which is an ownership model that people can start building generational wealth. It's the number one way Americans build generational wealth is through the ownership of a property. So if we're not creating some of that, at least, I think we're doing a disservice to the community.
What is the, did you find that number? I know you're doing this on the fly.
Yeah.
No, not yet.
Okay.
I bet you Carly can do it. I bet you Carly can do it in her head. She is that good.
Carly, you know that number?
I bet you she can do the mental gymnastics of math in her head and come up with the median number on
I mean,
that.
you got 1,125,000,000,
So you got to drop
the
the
payroll.
out. It's a whole math.
and you got 12,024 employees.
Yeah.
Now the problem is you're gonna have to figure out.
It's a math.
I'm
Average.
gonna need a pen and paper. Neil Williamson says more housing everywhere for everyone, ownership and rental. Keith
I
Smith.
agree 100%.
Rob Neal, I'm gonna get to your comment.
I'm just saying at the moment because
It's been a great show.
Thank you. Oh, sorry. I've been into discussions. Got it. Love it. So at the moment, we're around 1,000 units. I don't know how many units they're going to produce. Neil will probably tell you on these two properties. They're rental units. We've got roughly 12, an approved subdivision for 12 to 1,400 units that can go into North Point. How much of those are going to be ownership? And he's 100% right. More housing for everybody at every price point. It helps everybody. Thank you, Neil. Greene County, by the way, slide number 5. I know you're busy doing numbers. Jumped up from 114 sales to 126, so we increased, and we jumped up from 386 to 400. So the first 7 months of Greene County, the median, because the computer tells me this, so I don't have to do the math, because the computer's smarter than Smith, is $400,000.
Greene County with a 4 in front of it on the median.
And both of those trajectories in Greene County are going to continue to go up. Some of the other jurisdictions on the number of units of sale are going to stay a little flat. The other winner on it is Louisa County. That's jumped from 126 to 150 in the first 7 months of this year versus 23. So that inventory or the volume of sales is going in the right direction. It also jumped 20 grand from 400 to 420.
This man leaves a comment. I respect his comments considerably because the man's in the business. Rob Neal.
Hey, Rob.
Rates in the 5s won't inspire locals to trade their 2.375% or their rates between 2.375% and 3.25% for a new home. But rates in the 5s facilitate outsiders that can sell in an expensive market and buy here for a lower cost and keep cost burden constant with their 5s rate, or justifies pro formas for outside investors more, which further proves the point that I was trying to make.
So if we go to 5%, we're not going to see 1,800 new homes on the market.
Dude,
per
if we go to
month.
5%, we are going to see a much deeper buyer pool. We're not going to see the inventory
I agree,
uptick.
100%.
Rates are going to, values are
100%,
going to go bananas as a result.
100%. Volume of listings are going to go up slightly,
Yeah.
but not to this double of where we were at back in 18, 19, 20. Even in the let me see, December of 20, we were at just shy of 900, about 850 in the winter of 20, getting ready to go. So that was in that uptick that on that end of it. But anyway, hope I made sense today.
Oh, you were fantastic. Fantastic show. Fantastic show.
Next Friday, big thing. We've got Mariachi coming in with cocktails and food. So this is an opportunity to watch Smith sip a cocktail at 10:15 in the morning.
Next Friday, River Hawkins
And?
Johnny Ornalis.
Yep. We're going to sit here. We're not going to talk numbers anymore.
In the house.
We're not going to talk. We're going to have fun and eat food.
We're going to eat Mexican food and do some boozing.
Well, it's going to be. It's international. Because
International
there's
food.
Peruvian. There's all these different really fusion stuff that he's doing over
At
there.
10:15 in the morning, Mexicali in the Old World of Beer location on West Main Street. Give it a try. Fantastic spot.
I've already went to Costco and picked up my jar of Tums.
Very good. Smart man. He's a smart man. His name is Keith Smith. He's a real estate agent. He's a realtor. He's one of the owners of Yes Realty Partners. That firm is on fire. If you need help getting through the finish line that we call closing, Yes Realty Partners, Keith Smith, Yonna Smith, their firm, A++. Judah Wickhauer, thank you for making magic today.
Judah, I put you through the ringer today. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate staying on top of me.
I Love CVille show, guys. 12:30 p.m. Getty up and get ready. So long, everybody.